Change when all the little lambs are marching. They all do it the same way.
Hey guys, FilmCrazyAdam here. I'm about to head off to go see Ant-Man, the new Marvel movie, and I don't know. Going into this one, I'm going in pretty much blind. Currently, I know very little about Ant-Man. Most people know very little about Ant-Man, unless you're a huge Marvel fan, or just comic books in general, like my friends are. I only know what I know about Ant-Man I've gained from them and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero cartoon. And even that, I've only seen the first season. And from what I know in that is, it's a power suit made from science that he can shrink down and somehow he can talk to ants with the suit. And at some point in the cartoon series, like, he uses the suit to get super big. So he's super small, but can get super big. I haven't seen any of that in the trailer for the movie, so I don't know if that's going to be part of it. I've seen, you know, him shrinking down and, like, the ants in the trailer. So I don't know a whole lot about the character. They tell me, I believe that he marries Wasp. I thought the girl in the trailer might have been Wasp, but my friend's like, no, that's his daughter or something. Or that's Wasp's daughter. So I'm guessing Kirk Douglas plays, what's his name, Hank? Hank Pym? Hank. Kirk Douglas, I'm assuming, plays the original Ant-Man. I'm assuming. I'm possibly wrong. And then Paul Rudd plays the new Ant-Man, where he gives him the suit. So there's no... So in terms of storytelling, we're just saying, yeah, we've made this... Like, you don't see the development of the suit. It's just like, oh, we made it. Here it is. Boom, suit. And that's one way to do it. I actually approve of that. You know, so we don't see the development. We don't need to see the development of the suit. We just need to jump right into it and be like, this is the suit. This is what it does. And this is what we need you to do. So I'm curious, you know, I'm curious more than anything because I don't think... or at the least, I find it very hard to believe that I couldn't believe when they said they were going to make this movie because the character of Ant-Man, so few people know about him. So it's like, I don't know who his villains are, and the reason why you haven't heard about him is because he's not a huge character like Iron Man or Hulk or the Fantastic Four or Spider-Man within the Marvel Universe. I mean, he's not dead center. He's not in the thick of it, or at the very least, he's not the center of the thick of it. He's a scientist. He kind of does stuff over here off to the side. He doesn't really do a whole lot. At least that's my impression. So I'm like, when they made this movie, I'm like, how are they going to make this into a movie, or at least how's it going to be a good movie? I don't know if that character can stand on his own without a cast behind him, without, like, you know, being part of a team. I don't know how he can carry a whole movie, but we'll see. You know, Marvel so far has not disappointed. A couple of my friends have already seen the movie. Haven't given me any spoilers, just say it's really good. One of them said it's different from the other Marvel movies, but it's still good. Like, everyone still says it's good. So I have optimism going into it. Again, I don't know anything about this character beyond the cartoon and what my friends have told me. So I'm going in pretty much blind. I'm going in with doubts, with a certain number of doubts, because again, I don't know if he could carry this movie by himself. But if you got good writers, which Marvel obviously has, and Disney obviously has, you can forgive a lot in a movie if the stories are good and the characters are good. Now, these characters are good, and the story is halfway decent. This is going to be a good movie. At the same time, I don't know how many shots of this movie were shot on a soundstage in front of a giant blue or green screen, because, you know, that can get boring really quick. When, oh, they're on the train set, but yeah, we know they're not on the train set, they're on a soundstage. I don't know. I don't know. I have my doubts going in, but Marvel has a good track record. Hopefully this won't be the movie that drops the ball for the MCU. Anyway, I guess that's all I got going in. I don't know much about the character, and I'm hoping it's good. So, let me check it out. I'll catch you guys later. Okay, I just got back from Ant-Man. went to see it with a friend, and got subs afterwards. Had that. Talked about that a little bit. This was a weird one. Weird in a good way. Different in a good way. This movie had quite a... It jumped around a lot. A lot. I think I'm safe saying that this movie, this Marvel MCU movie, took itself the least bit serious. I think I'm fair in saying that. The acting was good. I think Michael Pena, I don't know how to say his name correct. Pena. Yeah. He was a little over top. I love him though. I love him as an actor, not just in this movie, but I just love him as an actor. So he didn't disappoint, but he was at the same time he was a little over the top. And I don't know if the little group of mischief makers that Scott, the new Ant-Man, the second Ant-Man, that I don't know if he is this. I don't know if that's canon. I don't know if that's part of the comics. Like, Scott is an ex-thief. I think that's what his character is in the comic, and I don't know if this band of mischief makers is part of it. I mean, it was very Three Stooges at times. If you haven't seen the movie, you don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm thinking right now, I don't know how much I want to say right now. In fact, I'm thinking because I just saw this movie. I got it, and I'm thinking I might just sleep on it. Like this is one of those movies that's going to require me to mull a little bit, because it was, like I said, different in a good way, but unlike any of the other MCU movies, it was. Yeah, you know what? Let me do that. I'm gonna keep this segment, but I'm gonna turn off the camera and I'm gonna go to bed. I'll think about it while I'm at work tomorrow, and I'll finish this review tomorrow. I say that like you guys can hear me right now, but that's what I'm gonna do. So I'll get back to you tomorrow. Okay, it's Tuesday. I saw the movie on Sunday. Said I wanted to sleep on it, but then I got back a little bit later than I thought I was. I was going to get back yesterday, and then I had an early start, really early start today. I had to be up at 3:30, covering a route for another guy just for today. He's on vacation, so whatever, it's fine. But so that gave me an extra day to mull this movie over in my head before I shot this review, and I'm glad I did, because this movie, yeah. Before I get into it, let me say this. I liked this movie. Despite my reaction just now, I liked this movie. I really did. Of the MCU movies, this is in my top 2 or top 3 for favorite of the MCU movies. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I laughed a lot. So, if you want my opinion, if you want to know what FilmCrazyAdam thought about Ant-Man, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I highly recommend that you go see it. That said, and that should be the end of the review right there. You should turn off the review, go see this movie, because at this point, I've given my seal of approval, I've given my opinion, and now I'm going to start doing what I do best. I am going to analyze this movie, I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to kind of pick it apart. It's what I do. So, let's get into that. As I've said, I like this movie. I really did. I gotta go see it again, partially because this movie is so fastly edited. I mean, you are constantly moving. This movie really rushes you along. They were trying to put so much into this movie. This is of all the Marvel Cinema Universe movies, this is the one that more than anything needs a director's cut, because I felt like there was so much stuff that not went over my head, but I'm like, I feel like they shot another 5 minutes to this scene and they had to cut it, because the movie's 2 hours long. It's like an hour 57 minutes. So, I can see if they started cutting stuff. I mean, like, Avengers 2 was like 2.5 hours, almost, heading toward Lord of the Rings territory. And that's a big commitment that you're asking people to stay in the theaters for. And when you got a really obscure character like Ant-Man that very few people have heard about, or at the most they've heard about him, but they have no idea who he is or what his powers are or what he does. So I guess, you don't want the movie to run too long for something that you're not even sure is going to do well. That said, I checked the numbers on this one. It's still opened at number 1. It's still dominated. Well, I guess dominated is a strong term. It made the least of any movie in the MCU since the MCU started with Iron Man. It still dominated. It was still number 1 at the box office. It outscored Minions, which I know that company was expecting that to just boom. That they were expecting that to be huge. It actually looks kind of stupid. I still need to see it. Anyway, tangent. So, this movie really hurries you along. The editing is really fast, and you're jumping around constantly. There's, I don't know if I can call it it's a montage. There is a montage where Scott's learning how to use the suit. So you have him, Michael Douglas gives him the task of run down this hallway and shrink, jump through this keyhole, and then unshrink without killing yourself. And that's intermixed with him going underground in Michael Douglas's and Judy Greer's garden and just saying hi to the ants down there. Let me, for those of you who don't know what Ant-Man's abilities are, let me go over that really quick. Ant-Man has a suit that shrinks him down. It is powered by something called the Pym particle. It's Kool-Aid. It's red Kool-Aid in a little vial that Dr. Hank Pym, I was right, his name was Hank Pym, that he had invented this particle. And that's what powers the suit. And that's what allows him to shrink down. And that's fine. It's hand-waving, it's science. It's science! What do you expect? He made this particle, it shrinks him down. Oh. And for some reason, don't ask me because they kind of just, they hand-waved it. Even though you're small, alright, you know how you've heard how ants have the ability to lift things 50 times heavier than you? That would be like, well, essentially, that'd be like me being able to, let's see, 50, unless I'm mistaken, I can lift, yeah. I could no, I couldn't lift that. Could I? No. I was like, I could lift my tractor trailer, my tractor on my tractor trailer over my head. No, I can't do that. I can lift my car over my head. That would be like me being able to lift my car with one hand, basically, with no problem. So ants have this insane natural ability. And somehow, because he shrinks down and he calls himself Ant-Man, he has the ability too. I don't know if that's how it works, because you're still a human. Humans can't lift things 5-10 times their weight. They just can't. And I'm pretty sure that scales up and down, or else, toddlers would be able to lift 5 times their weight, and it doesn't scale down like that, but in the comics and in this movie, it does. And I'm pretty sure the suit doesn't do anything except protect you, because they explain that the Pym chemical, the Pym particle, and just the science of shrinking you down, if you're not contained inside a suit, the shrinking messes with your mind or something, and it drives you crazy. So essentially it's the suit being shrunk, but with you in it, and it takes you along for the ride, and it stops you from going crazy by encasing you in the suit. So basically, the suit is just that. It's a jumpsuit with a helmet. There's no special ability to the suit other than it shrinks. There's no servos, gyros, there's nothing that helps you out. It's just a suit. but somehow you have the same ability as an ant, where you can lift stuff heavier than you. And even when you're that small in a speck, you can punch people in the face, and it feels like they got punched by you full size, or maybe twice your punch strength at full size. It doesn't make any sense. You roll with it. You roll with it. I know it sounds like I'm saying that's BS, and I am, but at the same time, I roll with it. There's a lot of things that I will roll with. If it's established in the movie that this is how the world works, everything in this box, I'm gonna write in this box the rules of reality. That's one of them. That this suit does what I just explained. I'll roll with it. It's kind of like with X-Men, where it's BS that Cyclops can generate an energy blast that comes out of his face. Do you have any idea how much food he'd have to eat and what kind of like digestive system just to make that much energy constantly all the time? But and it's just waved off as that's a genetic mutation. No, purple eyes is a genetic mutation. Red hair is a genetic mutation. Death beams from your eyes is not a genetic mutation. That's a godlike power. But you roll with it because it's hand waved away and explained as, well, that's just what it is. It's a mutation. That's what he does. And you go, okay. Okay, sure. Why not? So we roll with that in Ant-Man, that his strength scales up as he scales down. Whatever. And also he can communicate with ants. And this I thought actually made more sense, where I think in the comics, or at least the cartoon show, the suit talks with ants. Like, it just does. Like, he talks into the microphone and it turns into ant speak. In this movie, they have a Bluetooth that emits pheromones. Pheromones that you have to think in. Basically, you're kind of, not quite telepathically, but you're using your mind. You're thinking about what they want to do, and then the device releases pheromones based on your thoughts and your brain waves, and it releases the necessary pheromones for the ants to do what you want them to do. That was kind of cool, and I rolled with that. And despite my worries that I was like, how is this? Can Ant-Man carry his own movie? Because he doesn't seem like somebody who you would put as the title character. He's obscure. He shrinks down. This movie was still enjoyable, but it was because the movie didn't take itself seriously. I have to categorize this as an action comedy. Michael Pena and these other two guys, a black guy and a Russian guy, I think he's Russian. So you have the Three Stooges of the United Nations, because that's what they are. Especially Michael Pena. He is so... God, how can I describe Michael Pena in this one? Because he's like, yeah, man, you wouldn't believe what we're doing. We're going to do this, and, oh, I'm so not serious. Oh, but I am serious. Oh, I take that at face value. You shrink down, man? That's really cool, man. Oh, we're going to go, and we have this heist we're going to do, man. And these guys were like, oh, yeah, I know what you need. And then he knows this other guy who's like, oh, yeah, we know about this job, man, that you want to do, and we're going to tell you how to get in, man. And that's how Michael Pena is for the entire movie. He's a character. He cracks me up. But it was so silly. It did not take itself seriously. And so that's kind of weird when you place it with the other 11 or 12 movies of the MCU. Up till now, they've all been serious. Ranging from semi-serious to super serious, but none of them silly. I mean, they have comedy moments, they have comedic moments, and usually well-timed, but they're comedic moments within a more seriously toned movie. Each movie, it's the hero versus the villain, and it's usually the fate of the world in the balance, or at least the fate of loved ones. I mean, it's a super serious matter. I mean, think of Captain America. He had to defeat Red Skull. Think of both Thor movies. They were going to just, people from different levels of the tree were going to destroy the world. Iron Man, in all three of his movies, fighting terrorists. And Hulk, using that one abomination, using gamma rays to wreak havoc, and just the Avengers in general. You know, the world is hanging in the balance as an alien army of some sort attacks. Well, or a robot army, which that honestly is a real fear for me. I fear for when the machines take over. Tangent. Side note. So going back to Ant-Man, as much as I like this movie, there are so many problems with this movie. There are tons of plot holes, things that made no sense, characters that were just ridiculously silly. There was, and also characters that are universally one note. I actually wasn't happy that there were so many universally one note characters. It seems at the end, like within the last 5 minutes, everyone changes a little bit and evolves a little bit. See, Scott's been in jail because he's a thief. I'm sorry, he's a burglar. And he has a daughter and an ex-wife. I think it's an ex-wife. And if she hasn't remarried, she's living with her boyfriend, who happens to be a cop. They live in San Francisco. And the daughter loves daddy. And at the beginning of the movie, the cop is such a jerk. Like, universally one note, a jerk. And not only that, but when he's staking out later in the movie with his partner, it is so campy. It is so campy. I mean, they're like hanging down. Like, they see us? No. Get back down. Oh crap, they saw us! You know, most of this movie, like the most serious character in this movie is Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. Ah, Hank Pym. I do remember the name. The main villain in this movie, I don't even remember. Oh, I had it, now it's gone. Cross. Cross is I believe is the main villain in this, and he has a suit that he invented called the Yellow Jacket. You've seen it in the trailer, and this is inspired by footage, like stock footage from like the 70s or the 80s that show Hank working for S.H.I.E.L.D. as Ant-Man. Like, he has super grainy footage, but somehow he can zoom in on the grainy footage and get like a perfectly HD image of Ant-Man. I don't know how that happened. It was shot on film from the 1970s, yet we can zoom super in and it doesn't pixelate. I don't know. Like I said, huge plot hole right there. That makes no sense. And he throws this, like, early on in the movie, he throws this video footage in Pym's face. It's like, ah, see, look, I have this footage. It's official S.H.I.E.L.D. footage. And Pym's like, yeah, that's cool. So you're not, so you're gonna deny that Ant-Man's not real? No, man, I don't know what you're talking about, man. There's no Ant-Man. I haven't seen him. He must not be real. And he's crazy because, like I said, with the suit, when you shrink down, you go crazy. Then how did he go crazy? Or was he always crazy? Because Cross is crazy. Mentally unstable, psychopath, crazy. And he's been Hank Pym's assistant for years. Hank took him under his wing. Very bad choice at choosing people, evidently. Hank is great with science, just not great at choosing people. And he was voted out of his own company. Very Steve Jobs of them. And this other guy invented his own chemical, his own particle. It's yellow instead of red. And maybe it's just exposure to the chemical? Because he hasn't figured out how to make his shrink ray, his shrinking technology, work. He has a handheld shrink. He has in the lab, they tested on lamb. And they fire the beam and it just turns into a little smudge. That's it. No fuss, no muss, no mess, just a little bit of a smudge. And at one point, he finally makes it work. Later on in the movie. And so that's kind of like the breakthrough he's going for. Is like, I need to make this work that doesn't... I need to make this shrink down without actually killing me. Or whoever's in the suit. And he eventually makes it work. Hank seems to imply that if you tried to shrink down without a suit, you'd go crazy. The chemical just does that to you. Whatever. But he's crazy to begin with. So it's kind of like chicken and the egg. Like, was he crazy to begin with, or did the chemical make him crazy? I don't know. Huge plot hole. Yeah, this guy just murders people. He's a psychopath, like a grade A psychopath. At one point, he just murders a guy in the bathroom. It's a little gross, but still. Hell, he even shows up at Hank's house at one point, and it's this really tense situation. And then later on, and they think they're in the clear. Later on, he even says, "Yeah, I came to your house to kill you. Yeah, I was just gonna do it. Seemed like the right thing to do. I was on my way home. I had to stop and get the groceries, and I'm like, you know what? Hank's home. I should kill him. He's a psychopath. I mean, this is stuff that you can get somebody committed. So I don't know. Huge plot hole. But he's universally crazy. Not quite Joker crazy, but not too far off either. Kirk Douglas's character is a hard ass for up until the end. Judy Greer, his daughter, is also a hard ass. She softens at one point, so she changes her tune a little bit at midpoint, but then she goes back to hard ass when it comes to getting the Yellow Jacket and the chemical away from Cross, because they know he's crazy. Judy Greer is actually like playing the part of double agent, like she's Cross's confidant, but she's really there. But she's really undercover to stop him because she knows he's crazy. His dad knows. Her dad knows he's crazy. And so they plan to. That's why they hired this thief. They're like, we need you to break in and with the Ant-Man suit, destroy his suit, and burn down all the servers so that like all his research is lost. Because we can't let this crazy man do this because he's a crazy man. We can't let crazy men do whatever they want. So it seems one of those really obvious things where it's like, how does no one else see this? How does no one else see this guy is effing out of his mind? He's killing people in the bathroom with a shrink ray that doesn't actually shrink you. It turns you into a little splat. I don't know. I actually felt bad for him a little bit when, spoiler alert, he dies. His suit implodes or something. Like, yeah, Scott goes submolecular. Evidently, there is absolutely no limit to how small this suit can shrink you down, and you can go submolecular. And somehow, by going submolecular, I don't know how he destroyed that suit. The Yellow Jacket is in the policeman's house, has his daughter hostage, knows who Scott is, knows who his daughter is, and is about to kill her. And to stop him, Scott, in his Ant-Man outfit, shrinks down, and he's like, I gotta get in the suit, into the Yellow Jacket, and screw it up. But I can't get between the plates. They're like fused together. So he's like, I gotta crank up the I forget what they call it. The thing that makes you shrink. I gotta crank that up so that I can go even smaller than this standard size. Go submolecular, so I can go between the molecules. And I would think that you want to get small enough to go between the molecules so you can move between atoms, go past that wall of titanium that's fused together, and then go back up to your still Ant-Man size, but grow back up to that, and then F stuff up in the suit. Somehow, just by going submolecular and then going through that, he completely, utterly, he did it. He did something where the suit starts to shrink and then big and then shrink, but like it's not affecting the guy. It's like it's not shrinking the guy inside with the suit. So basically, the suit is like crushing him, turning him into like sand and liquids as it crushes down. Like, it's destroying this man, and then eventually the suit implodes on itself. And yet, Scott's able to come back from that. Like, even though everything was destroyed, he's still somewhere in there in that submolecular universe. And I don't know, and Pym made it sound like when you get that small, you're entering a realm where time, space, and reality don't matter anymore. I didn't understand that. His wife died the same way. Like, they had to shut down a missile, and his wife, the original Wasp, shrunk down beyond the submolecular and went into this missile and shut it down. Now, the missile didn't, it just shut down and fell out of the sky. She never came back from it. I don't know how Hank knows about the submolecular universe, because he's never been there. I guess he's just guessing. But when you get down that small, you don't care, or you fall into a coma? I don't know. They never really made it clear what happens when you get that small. I just assume you're that small, and it's like when you're Ant-Man size. It's no different to your brain chemistry. But evidently it is! And you stop caring, or you stop... I don't know. I don't know what happens when you get that small. Because he just kind of like floats there a little bit. And then he hears his daughter, which evidently in the submolecular universe, sound still travels there. So he hears his daughter calling for him, and that like wakes him up. And he comes back by using, get this, the only weapon that he's got, if you can call this a weapon, is he has these shurikens. One that has the Pym particle in it, and then one that has like the anti-Pym particle. The Pym particle is red, and like this other particle is blue. And so when you throw these shurikens, whatever it hits with the red, it shrinks them down. Somehow doesn't make them go crazy, but it shrinks them down. The blue blows it up to the opposite size you'd be if you were Ant-Man shrinking up to normal size. Doesn't drive them crazy either. And he takes the he takes the blue shuriken and he puts it in the device on his belt, and that brings him back to full size. Why can't you just hit the reverse button? I don't know. I forget if he tried the button and it didn't work. I don't know. And there's so much of that in this movie. There's what the F? Are you kidding me? How does that work? That doesn't work, and you didn't explain it enough. You're hand waving it away. You're just not caring about this. So to kind of encapsulate everything, this movie actually was, in terms of writing, in terms of story, I mean, the story was okay. The story was okay, and it was there. The characters were silly, or they were super serious, and they were all universally one note. Getting the Yellow Jacket seemed needlessly complicated, and they never, I don't think they gave a good enough reason why, because his daughter, because Judy Greer is like, I believe that's Judy Greer, unless Judy Greer was the ex-wife. I should have looked that up. Anyway, Hank's daughter is like, you should go. I can't go, I'm old, and the suit has done things to me. All right, then I'll go. No, you can't. You're my daughter. We need him to go. They did kind of explain, or at least Scott has the theory, he's like, I'm expendable. He doesn't want to lose you. He lost your wife. He doesn't want to lose you. You know, if I die, whatever. You know, it was a nice try. We didn't make it, but it was a nice try anyway, and I still have my daughter. I get that. But at the same time, if you're worried about this guy creating this army, this crazy guy creating this army of death machines, of death suits, I don't think that's a good enough reason to be like, my daughter who has trained and knows everything about the Ant-Man suit, she can't do it because I don't want her to. Everyone's going to die. The world's going to be slowly taken over by this madman. Maybe the Avengers will stop him. They reference the Avengers. In fact, Scott at one point, when the situation is explained to him, what the Yellow Jacket suit is, and that what Cross plans to do with it, he just straight up says, we should call the Avengers. Like, this sounds like something for them. And then they go to the facility in upstate New York. And that was kind of cool. I was like, they're like, yeah, there's, because Hank's like, we need a device in from like the 1980s that is in a warehouse in upstate New York. And I'm like, no, couldn't be. And they get there. It's the Avengers building from the end of the first movie. I mean, from the end of Age of Ultron. Evidently, when they upgraded this warehouse into an Avengers building, they kept everything in the warehouse because Scott gets there, fights with Falcon, still gets in and gets the device and gets out, the one that they needed. So yeah, this warehouse owned by Stark in the 80s, evidently 30 plus years later, everything, despite the fact that they just upgraded this building, changed it into the headquarters for the Avengers East, I guess. For some reason, the Avengers West are in the East. I don't know why, but they are. And their headquarters is in upstate New York. And that headquarters used to be a warehouse, which evidently everything from the 80s and whenever is still there. Yeah. Yeah. This movie had so many problems. And yet I liked it. This was, by far, the weakest movie of the MCU. In terms of story, in terms of continuity, in terms of plot holes, in terms of characters. This was, by far, the weakest. From a making sense, from a structured point, which is where I basically stand from whenever I review any movie. How is the structure? How is the acting, directing, the story? But I focus a lot on the storyline because you can forgive a lot in a movie if the story is good, it makes sense, it pulls you in, and the characters are good. And generally that relies also on the actors. The actors bring the story alive. What was the movie I just saw? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do believe that there's a movie that I saw where it was a super basic story. No. Tomorrowland. Terrible movie. God, awful. Yet, George Clooney almost makes it watchable. He's good. Like, all the acting that George Clooney's ever done could not forgive that movie. However, he made it bearable because he's good. He's a great actor. So if you have a good story that makes sense and pulls you in and pulls out emotions in you, and you have good actors to really convey that, because, like I said, you can forgive a lot in a movie if the characters are good and the story is good. You can forgive a lot in CG or lack of CG. That's another thing. This movie, so heavy on CG. So effing heavy on CG. It was hard to keep up with a lot of not just the editing, but just he shrinks, he shrinks, he expands, he shrinks, he expands, he shrinks, he grows, he shrinks, he grows, he shrinks, he grows, and people are, you got guys in the room and then what was that? They're reacting to a miniature, to Ant-Man. They're reacting to getting punched or kicked in the face by him, and they're throwing the CG in there, and the camera's going with it, and the camera, and you're moving. The camera's following. The camera's following. Oh, it's over here. Now it's over there. But now it's over there. So there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement in this movie. There's a lot of editing and stuff. And there's a lot of CG. I mean, he's down in an ant tunnel. He's riding an ant. He's miniature all the time. I don't know how much of that was actually. I don't know how much of that was actually Paul on a soundstage, or if they just said, "Screw it, we're just gonna make you a little CG man." Like, that's not you. It's gonna be too much of a pain in the ass because to get that aspect ratio, they have to have a warehouse big enough to park a blimp in. Basically, they need to turn an inside stadium football field into a soundstage because you gotta have a camera all the way the hell over there to make the man on camera look that small. So So there was a lot of CG in this movie. There's a lot of moving around, fast edits, and growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. So yeah, this movie was kind of hard to watch. And it was kind of hard to keep track because it pushes along and moves you along so fast. They tried to put a lot into that movie that it was really hard to follow. I need to go back and watch that movie again. I really do. Just because I know I missed stuff. I know I did. Not for lack of trying and not for lack of not knowing the character. It just moved along so fast that I missed some stuff. I know I did. So I need to go back, check that out. And I'm gonna enjoy it. So, how long have I been rambling? Okay. 47 minutes, I guess. That's a bit of a ramble. So let me wrap this up a little bit by circling back and kind of encompassing my thoughts. This movie, this particular MCU movie, in terms of story and structure, was by far the weakest of all the MCU movies. It didn't take itself seriously. It was very silly. And how serious can you take yourself when you're having an epic fight on a train track against Thomas the Tank Engine? Seriously, there's no way. Unless he was on fire and came alive and his eyes became demonic and he grew horns and fangs. That would be pretty epic. That didn't happen. And it was, I don't know if it was what they were going for, but at one point, remember those shuriken I was telling you about? At one point, Scott throws it on, where did I come up with Paul? Oh, Paul Rudd. He hits an ant. And so now you got an ant the size of a dog. A dog that you could ride. And also, one hits Thomas the Tank Engine, so it just expands and crashes through a wall. And the ant comes running out, and one guy had that was a really funny line where it's man, that's the ugliest dog I've ever seen. And then later in the movie, he's hanging out under the table. They're all eating dinner, and the daughter's passing him food under the table, and a dog, this ant comes up and Arr! So this movie did not take itself seriously. Or if it did, it was barely took itself seriously. All of that said, I like this movie. I enjoyed it. I'm going to go see it again. I recommend it to anyone who wants to have fun at the movies. It's a fun movie, and it's even a feel-good movie because Scott, like I said, he loves his daughter. He's kind of at a disadvantage at the beginning of the movie because he was in federal prison because he did this Robin Hood thing where he stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Quintessential Robin Hood. And so he went to federal prison for stealing millions of dollars. Understandable. And so it's hard for him to hold down a job. People find out who he is and then they fire him. Oh, you were in federal prison, we can't have you here. So he's trying to, his issue is he's got to pay child support. And basically his wife breaks down and says, look, get an apartment, get a job, pay child support. Once you're all paid up, then you can see your daughter. And she's not mean about it. I'll give her that much. But he does the math, and it's going to be a year, over a year before he sees his daughter. So that's why he turns to Michael Pena when Michael Pena's dude, man, we got this idea for, I got this, I know how to do this heist, man. I got this idea from somebody. He told me, he gave me a tip, man. So he turns to crime and he steals the Ant-Man suit. It's so contrived why that happens. That's another thing. I'm not even getting into that. But yeah. This movie I enjoyed. I recommend that you go see it. I do. It sets up for... They set up for two things at the end. There's two scenes at the credit. There's mid-credit and post-credit. The mid-credit scene is Michael Douglas taking his daughter down, or Pym taking his daughter down to the basement where there's a safe where the Ant-Man costume suit was in a safe. At the back of the safe, there's another safe that has the Wasp suit. And so he's and it's not finished yet. I think now's the time to do that. because, you know, he's come around to the idea like, oh yeah, my daughter can do this. You know, he's cool with that now. So there's personal growth for everybody. And so that sets it up for Wasp to be in an Avenger movie. And at post-credits, you know, at the end of Captain America, where Nick Fury walks up while Cap is doing the punching bag, and then that's the end of Captain America, and how that scene is in the first Avengers movie. I believe that's what happens in I believe that's what happens at the post-credit scene, where, spoilers, Cap and Falcon have hunted down Bucky, the Winter Soldier. And they have him, if they're not interrogating him, they're trying to, I don't know what they're doing, but, and they're conversing with each other. And Falcon, because Falcon, like I said, fought Ant-Man. Cap's like, I forget what he says, but basically it's like, we need to get this done. But I don't know how. And Falcon's like, I know a guy. Obviously meaning Ant-Man. So we're going to need, so his talents are needed. And I believe that's going to be a scene that we're going to see in Captain America Civil War. So it sets that up. So that's cool. On other note, if you follow me on Twitter, then you know that I have finally, after working on it for 9 months, I have finished the X-Men Last Stand script. I have done the on-screen stuff. I need to do some voiceover tonight. It ended up being a little bit long, so I'm going to have to cut it up into 2 parts. But by this weekend, I plan to have part 1 up, and then mid-next week I'll have the next part up. And then I'm going to get back on track with I Heard That Movie Sucks. So I hope everyone's looking forward to that, because now that things are turning around at work, I plan to get back on doing what I promised I would do back in the winter. Also, I'm going to start working on a new episode of Life with Ponies. And I should be able to get a lot of that done, because I'm going on vacation this next week. And yeah, so that's my review for Ant-Man and kind of my state of affairs. Anyway, go check out Ant-Man. I think you'll enjoy it. Other than that, what's the next movie I'm going to see? What's the one coming out next month? I can't think of it. Alright, this review has gone on long enough, but expect another review next month. Dang it, what was it? Nah, I can't think of it. Alright guys, laters.